everybody, Lori here from Unique in the Creek, and today I'm going to show you how to put together this really cute skate wreath for winter. So what we're going to be using is the Unique in the Creek large board, and we're also going to be using, look at this gorgeousness, we're going to be using this gorgeous silver iridescent laser foil mesh. The number for this mesh is RY861326. This laser foil comes in many different colors, and as you can see, it is sparkly and gorgeous. So this is the mesh we're going to be using for our base. We're using these two red skates. Now these are sold individually. They're totally out of stock, but we'll get lots more in next year now that I see that, you know, lots of people like it. So these are 6.5-inch skate ornaments, they're called. Okay, so we're going to be using two of them. And these ribbons I have paired. I'm going to be using this really gorgeous skate, 2.5-inch skate ribbon. Let's cut this open. It's got the silver sparkle on it. It's glittered. It's beautiful. And it's a royal burlap. So this is a 2.5-inch. And then I'm coming in with a 1.5-inch shimmer glitter. Now the glitter doesn't come off, so you're safe with this one. This is gorgeous. We're going to be pairing it with that. And then this is what's called a fine glitter ribbon. This is a 7/8 red. Again, the glitter doesn't come off, but it's not as large glitter flakes as the shimmer glitter. So that's the difference between shimmer glitter and fine glitter. Okay, the fine glitter is almost like really embedded into the ribbon. So this is a 7/8 ribbon. This one's RGE 778924. Again, we have it in all kinds of different colors. Same with the shimmer glitter. The shimmer glitter 1.5 is RGC 159626. So those are the ribbons that we're going to be using with this wreath. I'm also going to be using gray zip ties. I like the look of the gray zip ties because you can barely see them on the back of the board. Keeps everything nice and neat. We got some pipe cleaners, and there's a measuring tape in case you don't have a cutting mat and a rotary cutter. You can use a ruler like this, an adhesible ruler, and roll out your ribbons or mesh and just cut them with the scissors. Okay, so for this wreath that we're doing, like I said, we're using the large board. I'm going to be using 8 pieces. 8 pieces. I wrote it down on the back of here it is. I wrote it down on the back of my paper here. So on row 1, I'm going to be using 8 pieces of mesh cut at 15 inches. Okay, so 8 at 15. The beauty of these boards is you can actually write on them. So I'm going to put 8 at 15 inches for row 1. Row 2 is going to be 8 at 10 inches, the mesh. Row 3 is going to be 8 at 10 inches for the mesh. Row 4 is going to be 4 at 10 inches for the mesh. And row 5 is going to be 4 at 10 inches. Okay, so that is the mesh calculations. That will give you using up the whole roll of mesh. So everything's cut at 10 inches except 8 pieces at the very beginning at 15. And that's for row 1. I like to have the big, nice, fluffy ruffle pieces on the outside of my wreath. Gives the appearance of like a much larger wreath, and it just looks beautiful. Okay, so that is the mesh. And then our ribbon tails. So I'm going to be using 8 ribbon tails. So I'll probably use each one of these as one unit. So when I say 8 tails on row 1, that's 8 of the skates, 8 of the silver, and 8 of the red 7/8 at 14 inches, okay? Row 2, I'm not going to be doing any tails. So row 2 will just be mesh, okay? Row 3 will be another 8 tails. Again, I'm going to use all 3. You don't have to. You can just use the 2.5 inch and then 1.5 inch if you feel that it's going to be too much ribbon. However, I'm just going to have the silver, but I'm going to have the red kind of over top when I put them in, and you'll see once we get this started. That's how I'm going to do it. You don't have to do that. You can just save your 7/8 for the end and do a super bow, big loopy bow with it. You will have leftover anyways. So row 4, no tails. Row 5, I'm going to do 4 tails. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have my skates kind of going down the center when we're done. Just like this. I'll stagger them. We're going to put a funky bow just at the top, but you're going to have all kinds of tails and mesh coming out. So you'll see the tails and the mesh beautifully. Okay, so that is my plan of attack for this wreath. Okay, first thing we're going to do is cut our mesh. So I'm going to cut 8 pieces of our mesh at 15 inches. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I have a bit of a run in my mesh. I am not going to worry about that, my friends, because we're going to ruffle this mesh up and put some ribbon tails on it. You are not going to see this little teeny tiny run. Okay, so it's not an issue if, you know, obviously it looks like one of the metallic stripes have come out. Anyways, so I'm going to roll out my mesh. Now if you have a cutting mat, you're going to roll it out and keep it squared with the line at the bottom and your edge here going on the vertical here. And I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut at 15 inches. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, now if you don't have a rotary cutter and a cutting mat, you simply can take your mesh, roll it out with your ruler. Okay, roll it out. I cut my ruler here. Square it up so it's just running kind of along top of your measuring tape. And where the 15 is, okay, right there, I'm just going to cut with my scissors at 15. So either way you do it, you need 8 at 15 inches and 24 at 10 inches. So once you got your 8, you're going to roll it out and you'll cut your 10 inches. Alrighty, that is for our mesh. Okay, so for your ribbons, I'm going to cut just 8 to begin with, so I don't have ribbons all over the place. So I'm going to cut my ribbons as I use them for each row. So row 1 is going to have 8 pieces of each 3 of these ribbons. So you can either use your measure buddy, so you can pull it out, the arm 1 all the way out to number 14. And we do sell these on our website. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm going to cut this off the roll. Close my measure buddy. All right, make sure your ribbon's lined up, and I'm going to cut the edge here. And then I'm going to cut the other edge. And we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of that. Now I'm going to do 8 pieces of this silver shimmer glitter, exactly the same. Now if you don't have a measure buddy, you can use your cutting mat as a ruler, or even the adhesive ruler. Just cut this. I hate when they bend it at the end. So what you're going to do is take your ribbon, pull it out so you put the end at the 0. I'm just going to put my finger right on the 14 here, and I'm going to fold this in half. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep folding it back and forth. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, cut that off the roll. And we're going to cut the ends. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. All right, and I'm going to dovetail all these and make little packets. So I'm going to use my 2.5 inch for my bottom. So I'm going to fold this in half. All right, fold it in half, and then you're going to fold it over vertically like that. And then from the folded edge to the outside corner. Now, if you want to be specific, you can actually measure out your dovetail cuts. What you can do is like fold it in half lengthwise again, put it on your ruler, and I usually do about 1 inch. And this is if you want every single dovetail to be exactly the same. Put the end of your ribbon, I have it on 12. I'm going to put my thumb at 11. So where I'm going to cut is from the folded edge to the outside corner. Open it up, and there's my dovetail. Now, if you want it precise, you would do that for every ribbon, okay? And now I'm going to put my ribbons into packets. So I'm going to fold them in half, fold a silver in half, fold a red 7/8 inch in half, and I'm going to put silver in, and then I'm going to put the red in, and I'm going to make 8 packets. So I got my 8 packets of ribbon here, and we're going to be using the 8 pieces of 15-inch mesh. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to use row 1, okay? I want to open my packet of ribbon, okay? And I like to step my ribbon. So I have a 2.5 inch, right? I'm going to bring that 1.5 inch near the top of the 2.5 inch bottom skate one, and the 7.5 or 7/8 inch at the top of the silver, just like that. So you have a little bit of the skate, the silver, and the 7/8 inch exposed. All the centers are lined up, and I'm gonna just pinch it right up that center, and I'm gonna flip it upwards. So what you have is something that looks like that, okay? I'm going to just put that to the side for now. I'm going to take one of my zip ties. You do get 100 in a pack of zip ties. Now you'll see the divoted holes or chamfered holes. Those are your hanging holes. I'm going to start 1 over from the hanging holes, and it says number 1 in between the hanging holes. I'm going to go 1 over. So I'm going to take my zip tie, and I'm just going to put it through the first hole on row 1, and I'm going to use that hole to the outside of the board. Okay? And I'm going to take my 15-inch piece, and I'm going to make a ruffle with it. So there's our 15-inch piece. I'm going to have it curl down. Now that means when you let go, that's curl up because it's curling up on itself. I'm going to use it curl down, and I'm just going to make a simple ruffle. So you're going to put it So the 15-inch is lengthwise, and you have your factory edges on the left and right hand side of you. You're going to go from the middle, pinch. So when you pinch it, that the bottom where you've cut it is facing the table, okay? Then you're going to take your fingers and you're going to grab another piece of that mesh and bring it to the center. Grab another piece. So we're actually pleating this mesh in the center. Just grab and slide it to the center, just like that. And I like to end with the mesh, again, the cut edge facing the table. All right, so this is what you have, this really beautiful ruffle. Okay, so I'm going to take this ruffle and hold it right in the center where I've pinched, and I'm going to take my mesh, put it right on top of my board, in between the hole and the outside of the board, just like that. And then I'm going to take this set of ribbon tails that I did and put that right on the center on top. And I'm going to come around with my zip tie. Okay, so we're going to build this wreath step by step. Now, I like to have the ruffle of my wreath all facing towards the outside, almost like a frame. So the easiest way to do that is take your last pleat on your ruffle that's towards the center and just kind of face it down towards the board. Do you see how that all made my mesh just ruffle towards the outside? All right, and once I've done that, I'm going to pull my zip tie tight. All right, and there we have that nice ruffle. And we will work on our ribbons near the end because they'll just get messed up as you're making your wreath, okay? So now I'm going to skip the next hole on row 1, and we're going to do the exact same thing right here. So we got a zip tie, skip a hole, a zip tie. Let's do that again. That's curl up. We're going to use curl down. Now I like to get my ribbons tails all ready. Now if you do have like some metal clips, we do sell the metal clips. Metal clips are even clothespins help a lot. Okay, so I'm stepping my ribbon again. Now you don't have to do this. You can have everything just going down the center. I just like the way when I flip it up, I really don't have to. Can you see how it's already separated? You know, I really don't have to put a lot of thought in when I'm separating my ribbons. So, because it almost automatically does it when you step it. And that's the way I want it in my wreath. So, I'm going to pinch it up the middle, flip it up. Okay, you want to make sure both sides are pretty even. And then what you can do is, if you have a clip, you can just clip it, or you can just leave it free like I did the first one. All right, and then we're going to take our mesh again, cut edge at the top and the bottom, curl down, pinch and drag. Okay, you don't want to do this on a tablecloth because you're going to be pinching the tablecloth into your mesh. And again, I like to finish the last one where the cut edge is facing down. All right, again, we're going to put the middle of our mesh right on between the hole and the outside of the board. And take my ribbon tails and put that right in the middle. And we're coming around with the zip tie in the middle of our pack there. Again, I like to have my mesh kind of framing it, so I'm just going to push that last pleat down. Okay, once it's there, and do your zip tie up. Okay, we're going to do that for every other hole on row 1. row 2, all we're gonna do is put some mesh, okay? If I put mesh and ribbon, it's going to be a whole lot, and I don't want it to be a whole lot. So where I'm going to be putting the mesh is in between the two zip ties that we did on row 1. So for me, where I started, my zip tie on row 2 is going to be starting right at the number 2. I'm going to go down and up, and this time I'm just going to preload it closed. So, which means you're just going to close it until you hear a zip sound, and it'll lock. Okay, and we're going to skip and do every other one on row 2. Just preload these going down and back up. So you will have 8 zip ties on row 2 closed. Right, so we got our board loaded for row 2, and we're going to take our 10-inch piece of mesh, so we're going to need 8 of them. So you're going to just take your 8-inch piece of mesh, and I'm going to make what's called a kerfuffle. So all I'm going to do is bring the bottom, so we're curled up, okay? Bring the bottom in approximately to the middle, bring the top just slightly over that bottom piece so you have this rectangle shape. All right, and then you're just going to pinch right up the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it upwards. Right now it looks like when you flip it upside down, it looks like kind of 2 bells. And what I'm going to do is take this, well, I call it a nub, but where we've folded that, just going to take that nub, put it in about 1/2 inch into our zip tie and just do it up. This is just going to be more of like a filler for row 2. So very simple. When you're flipping it up, you want to make sure each side is about the same length. Okay, grab it in your, I'm right-handed, get that nub, put it into your zip tie and do a zip tie up. It's about, I don't know, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Okay, so once we're done that, we're going to go around and we're going to cut off those zip tie tails again. Okay, we're on row 3 now. So row 3, we are going to do 8, and we're going to do the regular holes. Now there is a large hole in between like regular holes, so you'll see where the number 3 is. Go down and up. That is what we call a regular set of holes. We're only using 8 regular sets. There is that extra hole there in case you are making flowers, and it's a totally different design. So we're going to preload close, just like we did row 2, the 8 zip holes on row 3. Okay, so we're going to be using 8 pieces of mesh on this row, the 10 inches, and 8 pieces of each of the ribbon. So I haven't pre-cut my ribbon for this row, so I'm going to cut 8 pieces of all 3 ribbons. So you're going to take one of your ribbon packets. This time I'm not going to step it. I'm just going to have the 2.5 inch, the 1.5 inch, the 7/8 inch just on top of each other, making sure the centers are lined up. Okay, just like that. Flip it so they're about the same length. Just put it to the side. I am going to take, and I am going to do this in a kerfuffle style, just like I did row 2. All right, fold it up. I flip it over. Flip it up so you got the 2 bells. Okay, you're going to take the nub part. We're going to put that in the zip tie, And then I'm also going to take my ribbon and put that into the zip tie right on top. And then once it's all in, I'm going to pull it tight. Now, if that is too much for your hands, you have a lot of zip ties in your packet, right? So what you can do is you can do because these ribbons are quite thick. They're really good royal burlap ribbon. So they are quite thick. So what you can do is do your mesh first. So just fold your mesh. Now, if you're using pipe cleaners, it's a different story. You can just pipe cleaner them in, but I feel that zip ties hold everything in so much better. So you're going to put your mesh in. Just do your mesh up. Cut that zip tie tail. And then we'll go over top of that with a whole nother zip tie. And then we'll zip tie the ribbons in. So we'll just close it up. Take your ribbon, the nub of your ribbon, just stick that right in and do that one up. So that's probably a little bit easier on the hands and everything. And you're only using 8 extra zip ties, and it takes just a few seconds more than if you did the mesh and the ribbons at the same time. So it's totally up to you, this step of how you want to do it. I personally like doing 2 zip ties. I just feel that everything will be in a lot more secure using the 2 zip ties. For row 4, we're only going to have 4 pieces of mesh. So you can see how nice and layered and full this is, right? So row 4, I'm going to only use 4 pieces of mesh. And row 5, I'm only going to use 4 pieces of mesh. And I'm also going to use 2 of the skates, 2 of the silver, and 2 of the 7/8 red on row 5. So where I'm going to put the 4 zip ties on row 4 is, you can see there's the 2 zip ties here. I'm going to go right in between here and just preload that again. I'm going to skip that set of holes and go into this set of holes. Now the circumference between each set of holes is very close. So the mesh and ribbons, instead of using 8, using 4 will suffice. It will cover up the board and everything. And don't forget, we have to add skates on, and we still are doing 4 pieces in row 5. So this is just mesh. So I'm going to take that 10-inch piece, do the same bubble, and we'll fill up those 4 with just mesh. Okay, and last row, we're going to preload row 5, just the normal holes. So 1, 2, So we got 2 for row 5, 2 skates, 2 silver, and 2 red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 2.5-inch skate ribbon on its own with a piece of mesh. Okay, so I'm flipping it up. And then I'm going to do the silver and red on its own. Pinch it and flip it up. So I'm going to have these ready to go. Very easy. All right, now we're going to put our mesh in again and our ribbon. So mesh, and this is the 2.5-inch ribbon, and do that zip tied up. So the next one I'm going to do mesh, but the silver and red. And again, if it's too much for your hands, you can do double zip ties again. Nobody will know. Nobody really will care. Then we're going to make a bow in a bit as soon as we're done this. And we're going to spread out our ribbon tails, add a hanger, put our skates on, and we be done. Now this wreath is quite, it's a really good size and diameter, but it's not too tall. So it will fit in between 2 doors perfectly if you don't make a huge loopy bow. The bow is usually what will get squished in these wreaths. And for the center, I'm just going to use the very center of row 5, and we're just going to put a nice mesh ruffle in the center. No need for ribbon tails, just to fill up that center hole there. And I'm just going to use what's left on my, there's quite a bit left, so hold on. Just cut it down. Alright, and I'm just going to make a simple ruffle to put in the center of row 5. Now you can make a little bow loop if you want in there. What I'm going to do is just make a ruffle like this, and I'm putting the center right in between the zip tie head and tail, and do that up. And we'll spread that open. Alrighty, we are ready to get all our stuff on. Look how beautiful this is. Now, we're going to have to spread all those tails and everything, but you usually do that right at the end. Okay, so this is what the front is looking like. How pretty that is. This is what our back looks like. So if you want, you can screenshot that. So row 1, 8 on the outside row. There's the row 2, 8 every other. Row 3 is 8 normal holes. Row 4, just 4. And row 5, the 4 and just 1 ruffle in the center. Okay, so we have this flipped over. Let's take a zip tie and make a hanger. So right above the logo on row 1, there's those divoted holes. You can feel that they're divoted in there. We're just going to put a zip tie, do it up a little bit, and then cut the zip tie tail off. And there's our hanger. Now, our skates. We have to decide. Now, you don't have to put your skates going down the center. You can have them off to the side. You can put them actually wherever you want. You can hang them off the bottom. It is totally up to you where you want to put your skates. I am going to put mine in the center and have them hanging down the middle. And then at the top, right above the skates where I'm going to attach it, I'm going to put a nice little bow and it will be all done. In the center, but a little higher up. So I'm going to put my skates in the center and have them hanging down, kind of like this. So you can make one longer and one shorter if you want. Where I'm going to go with my zip tie is right in the center, right above the Unique in the Creek logo. I am going to push down into there, a zip tie on the back. So right there, right above the logo, on row 3 center, okay? I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to find, here it is, I'm going to find that zip tie. It's right there. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my skates, cut off the tag. Okay, we'll put one right there. Now the other one, I think I want to make it a little bit shorter so they're not literally the same length. Let's see. Yeah, the strings are the same length. So what you can do if you don't want them the same length, there's a little knot at the top of your thing. I'm just going to make one of them have a knot a little bit lower down. So there's the original knot. I put one right here. So that and that. Okay, so we're going to take this loop, grab your zip tie head, put it there, and then find your tail, and we're going to put the other loop into the zip tie and do them up. And that's how you're going to attach your skates. Now you could do this on the side if you want, if you don't want yours right down the middle. All right, I did that up. We'll cut that zip tie tail off, and then we'll fix our ribbons that are underneath. And there we go. We have our skates perfectly in the center where I want them, just like that. And right above here, in the center, I'm going to make a cute little bow to go right above the skates. And just fix these. So what I'm going to do on row 5 is I'm going to pull out your 2.5 inch. I'm going to fix those. Then I'm going to take my 1.5 inch silver, red, silver, red, and spread them out. And there's the 2.5 inch. Then the silver, red, pull it out. Silver, red, and there, row 5 tails are done. All right, and then we're going to put a bow right there, and then we'll fix all the rest of the tails, once we're done our bow. So I am going to use a bow maker. Now there is lots of videos on how to make bows, how to make hand bows. I personally like my Easy Bow Maker for doing bows. You could even, if you have one of our kits that you got and you have the Kids Easy Bow Maker, that will work just as well if you want to go that route. I have what's called a cheater bow on our website. You can go that route where you just use like hot glue and stuff like pipe cleaner. But you're going to want to grab a pipe cleaner. Okay. And I'm going to be using the ribbons. Now, I don't want to make this super huge bow. We have a lot of ribbon on there, and I want some of this beautiful silver mesh to shine through. So I'm going to make what's like sort of a funky bow. It's just loops with tails, okay? So I'm going to take, and we got quite a bit of ribbon left over. So I'm going to take a piece of this ribbon, and I'm going to cut it 12 inches. So I'm just going to measure. So I have a 12-inch piece here. I can fold it over. This is just going to be a little background tail, if you want to call it, and I'm going to put that right down the center. Okay, so it's 6-inch and 6-inch. And then I'm going to do it again, 6 inches. I'm going to pinch it at the 6-inch, like that. Push it down. Then you're going to take your ribbon and give it a half twist towards you. And this will bring the bad side of your ribbon up, so that when you go to make a loop, the good side is facing. So we're going to make a 6-inch loop. So just take your ribbon, find your loop, and scrunch it. This is pretty thick ribbon, so it's easier if you scrunch it first down the middle. Give it a half twist again. There's our loop. Our bad side's facing up. We're going to do the same thing, bring it over. Now we don't have to give it a half twist because I'm only doing 2 loops on each side. So one loop on each side and 2 ribbon tails. So I'm just pulling this to the 6-inch there, and then I'm going to cut it off at the 6-inch. So we got 1 loop on each side and 2 tails. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and then a loop. 1, 2, and then a loop. Okay, that's all we're doing with this, and we got about a quarter of a roll left over. I'm going to do the same thing with the silver. Again, I'm going to pinch it at about the 6, bring it down, cut it off at 6. Okay, there's 1 tail, and then we'll do it exactly the same. Give it a half twist towards you so that the bad side is facing upwards. I'm going to do 1 loop on each side, about 5.5 inches, just so that skate ribbon is peeking through the back a little bit. So we did this loop at 6, so this one's going to be at 5.5. Just guess. All right, so we got 2 tails, and we're going to cut that off. So we got 1 loop, and 2 silver tails. Alrighty, and then we're going to come in with this beautiful 7.5 inch and do the exact same thing. So I'll pinch it, bring it down. Now the fine glitter is really a thick ribbon, so give it a half twist. Now if you want, you can do 2 loops with this 7.5 inch. I am going to do 5.5 inch loop. So there's 1, 2, there's 2 loops on that side. And I don't have to twist it because this is the last loop, and then we're going to cut off the tail here. And we used much more than that. So actually, you know what? I might just, so because this is almost done. I don't want to waste it. Actually, no, never mind. There's enough here that I could put some couple tails on a bow, on another bow. Or we can make a second bow for the wreath. It's up to you. All right, now I'm going to take a zip tie and one of my pipe cleaners. I'm going to carefully take this bow off my bow maker, the whole thing, and I'm going to put it right on top of this zip tie, carefully so it's still stacked, and come around the center and do it up there. Now don't do it up super tight because we're going to bring this head of this zip tie to the back. So bring it to the back. And then I'm going to put a pipe cleaner in behind that zip tie. And now I'm going to do it up. Now you don't want to do your bow up super, super tight, because if you do it up too tight, you're not going to be able to move your tails and your ribbon and your loops around, okay? So tight enough that the ribbon's not going to come out or anything, or neither is the zip tie or pipe cleaner, but enough that you can move your tails and stuff around. All right, and now I'm going to go around and just dovetail all the ends of this bow. So the tails. Alrighty, now I am going to put my bow on right where I attached my skates. So you're going to take each end of your pipe cleaner and you're going to just go down the two holes right where you connected your skates, okay? So there's one hole. You're going to have to lift your board up off the table so your pipe cleaner doesn't hit. And there's the second. Okay, and I'll flip it over and you can see it's right where I connected the skates, right above where the logo is. I'm just going to give it a little pull. I can feel some resistance. As soon as I feel resistance, I am going to give that a twist, okay? And now we're going to open and make our bow nice and pretty. So I like to start from the back. Okay, so we're going to use that, and bring one of its tails up here, going here, and then I'm going to keep the loops right centered. All right, and now we're going to work on the silver. The two tails, the loop. So I got one kind of going down towards the bottom, and then this other one I'm going to bring more towards the top here. And then take one of those tails like that from the red 7/8. Give it a little curl, open up the loop on both sides. Pull it up so you're not going to see the zip tie Now, because I'm doing such a loopy bow like this, it's not, if I wanted to put it through on 2 doors or between 2 doors, my bow is going to get squished. But I don't have 2 doors, so. And there we go. Look how beautiful that bow is. And we are done. I will go around and fix all my ribbon tails. So what I'm going to do is start with outside row 1, pull the skate ribbon apart, and then have the silver and then the red, and do the same on the other side. So the red will be right down the center, the silver right in behind, and then the skates. And I'll do that design or pattern all the way around row 1. Now I like to make sure my ribbon tails do have some kind of pattern, whether it be like this or the way I showed you on row 5 where you separate. But you definitely will always want to fix your ribbon tails, because this is a very important step when you're making wreaths, okay? That your ribbon tails are all brought out, that you can see them. That's the money, that's the sparkle, that's the wow factor, these beautiful ribbons. So you do want to make sure that you see all the ribbons and that they're nicely placed. I do this again when I'm taking a picture on my door, making sure, because I don't know how, but my ribbons get messed up from moving from just down in my craft area to the front door. I don't know how they get all messed up, but they do, so I always end up fixing them as well. So I'm just going to go around, make sure none of them are stuck in a ruffle or anything, and that they're pointing out. You may want to zhuzh them up and give them a little bit of a curl. Just take your fingers and go like that, and a good ribbon will give that a natural curl, and it just looks so much more finished. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing with, now you have a little bit more tighter space on row 4, but you can just slightly separate them. There we go. Just so you can see. Then it looks like there is a ton of product, which there really isn't. This is more of an elegant, kind of fancier wreath. All right, so you're gonna go do all that. Make sure your bow is nice. We've already done the ribbons on row 5. And that, my friends, is the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see what you guys put together. Bye, everybody.